Alrighty, so before we get into the busy midweek action where we got 13 games that's going to be happening in these next couple hours, I want to quickly make a reaction video in terms of something I should have done yesterday. And it's unfortunate that this news happened literally after I finished doing the preview of the midweek action, and then I went out for the night and didn't get home until really late at nighttime. But today, I'm going to make this reaction talk about St. Louis City and how we saw another head coach that end up in the chopping block. I think this is the third head coach that ends up in the chopping block this season, and the latest head coach to end up in the chopping block and getting fired is Olof Mellberg, as they have fired him after only in charge of the team for 15 games, which made him one of the shortest 10-year head coach in MLS history. I believe Alan Koch is still the shortest MLS head coach tenure, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no, I might be mistaken because I think Chris Armas also got fired for TFC relatively short into his tenure as well. I think it was in like 7 or 8 games. That is, but nevertheless, Olaf Melber's tenure with St. Louis City is definitely one of the shortest tenure we ever seen an MLS head coach be with the team, and I think this shouldn't be surprise everyone. I think he's been kind of a dead man walking for these past couple of weeks. I know a couple of weeks ago there was reports saying that he was gonna potentially get fired, though, the club basically doubled down by saying that nope, they're gonna still give him times and eventually see if he can turn this around. Well, now it feels like they kind of had second thoughts about it, and they decided that yep, it is the time for them to let him go after that 1-0 loss that they had against the Colorado Rapids. And as I said, it's not a big surprise considering not only he's done a terrible job doing this his time with St. Louis City, but the fact that he's just been completely doing a 180 in terms of what made the St. Louis City team good in the second half of last season, and what really kind of give a lot of St. Louis City fans hope that this season will be like what they did in the first season, having a good season, and that of course is just kind of turned this fun and entertaining brand of soccer that John Hackworth really done a good job building doing his intern bases to St. Louis to pretty much now turn into a team that is very defensive and also at time being very selective whenever they go on the attacking end, and at times not even thinking about attack whatsoever. And when you kind of build that kind of defensive style play, I mean, I know there are MLS teams that have success in terms of building that entertaining or building that very defensive kind of structure play. But usually those teams that kind of have that mindset are some of the worst team in the league. And this is not what St. Louis is all about. St. Louis wants to get themselves back to being best team in the Western Conference, at least one of the best team in the Western Conference. And I think with this defensive structure that Olof Melber brought, there was really no reason for that to do so. Now, did St. Louis have issue defensively last season? Yes. But do they need to really go full out on trying to solidify their defense while sacrificing a lot of their attack heading into this season? Absolutely not. I mean, they really didn't need to do that. And I also would say that, after this firing, now that I think the pressure is even mounting on their GM Lutz as well, because I think as much as I know Olaf Melber has got under a lot of scrutiny from St. Louis fan, but a lot of St. Louis fans are calling for their GM heads as well, because it is pretty clear that he made the wrong decision this offseason. He had a big decision to make this offseason in terms of deciding to keep John Hackworth, who did a really good job in an interim basis, and maybe promote him as a permanent head coach. Or is he going to just go with the unknown commodity in Olaf Melberg, a guy that he probably know before, but still, it's a very unknown commodity, and especially whenever you decided to bring a foreign head coach in MLS and a foreign head coach that have no knowledge toward this league and the style of this league is, that is always going to be a big gamble, and more times than not, that gamble does not pay off whatsoever. But I think what's even the more alarming thing that you got to say that he got this decision wrong is that why in the world did he decide to get a defensive minded head coach when, again, I know defense was at times a problem last season for St. Louis, but it wasn't at a point where they really need to bring a defensive head coach to really solidify five things whilst sacrificing a lot on the attack. And as a result of what we've seen this season, yes, while St. Louis has been one of the better defensive team in the league, but a lot of that is because they're just sitting players behind the ball most of the time while sacrificing a lot of the attack. And it's no wonder why as a resort, even some of these good pieces that they had last season, guys like Teuscher and Hardo that had a really good season last year. This season they've been pretty much restricted because of the defensive style. Even Edouard Leuven, the that's the same thing. He's been very restricted because of this defensive style as well. So yeah, overall, I think this, despite the fact that Olof Mellberg gets a lot of the criticism in terms the style of that play. That probably shouldn't have happened if Lutz didn't actually make the decision to move on from John Hatworth and decide to go with the unknown commodity, thinking that that will still work in terms of carrying the momentum that they had in the second half of the season into this season and continue to look like they're gonna try to get themselves back to being one of the best team like they did in their first ever season. And there's no doubt that his next hiring, he's got to get this right, because if he does not get this right, and especially when you look at this team as well, I don't know if this is a team that really need that much reinforcement. I think the way that this team have played, it's really just the coaching that is a problem with this team, and the identity and the tactics of this team is wrong. If they do get the right head coach to get this team going, there's no doubt that I think this team can look like the team that they were in the second half of last season and also in their first season as well. But it's all about whether or not if they get it right, because if they don't get this right, like I said, their GM Lutz, he is going to be under a lot of pressure, to a point where, yeah, I think you got to say that his job might be in question as well. But like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to like, smash the subscribe button, and if you're a St. Louis fan, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this firing. I'm pretty sure St. Louis fans is very happy about this firing, but at the same time, I can also say that maybe some St. Louis fans might be still a little concerned about the direction this team has gone, because while Olof Mellberg is definitely a problem with this team, he was not the main problem of this team. There might be more problem that even linger into the front office as well for this team. So yeah, we'll see whether they can fix that, and we'll see whether if this firing will also means that they're gonna have another incredible second half of the season. I also wish that this firing didn't happen right before when they're about to play the San Jose Earthquakes. Like, as a Quakes fan, I was really looking forward to see the Quakes potentially finally get their first win against St. Louis, because I don't think they have won against St. Louis ever since they came into the league. And now this firing happens, so you know what that means. They're probably gonna get a new head coach boost, or in this case, a new interim head coach boost, with them bring City to head coach into this on an interim basis. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.